Hello everyone, how's it going? So I woke up and saw this news, but we're going to open up with this statement right here. Bungie leadership assures employees Sony deal will not result in layoffs restructuring. So this is when Microsoft and Sony were buying a bunch of studios, kind of going head to head with everything. Microsoft to build up their Xbox Game Pass catalog, and Sony trying to not allow them to buy everything and have a monopoly on everything. But regardless, a lot of people were worried because these big multi-billion-dollar companies buying all these smaller studios, because Bungie is smaller in comparison to like Sony and Microsoft. So a lot of people were worried of what could come, because big companies gobbling up studios means that it could result in these studios going bunk. And we've been seeing this increasingly happen throughout the year. After the pandemic, the video game industry kind of took a huge slump because it started to plateau. All the people that they hired for the boom during the pandemic started to become unnecessary, on top of really bad deals, like with Embracer when their deal fell through, and on top of it, also Saints Row failed. A lot of their projects failed, and we also saw that idiot CEO who's like their primary focus was the CEO. Regardless, 4,000 people lost their jobs. Unity did a similar stupid thing where they tried to convince their publishers and developers, hey, we're going to make you pay for every time a consumer downloads your game. But then after the massive backlash, they decided to go against that, but then it still resulted in 1,800 people losing their jobs because the PR mess was just a disaster. This year, Microsoft laid off a lot of people. They closed down Tango Gameworks despite the fact them having one of the most critically acclaimed games of last year. Redfall, Arcane Austin got shut down, and a bunch of people just lost their jobs, on top of Halo Infinite being in one of the biggest trash fire you can possibly imagine. And then we saw EA cut 5% of their jobs. And fittingly, Sony also cut 900 jobs just this year. So they've just been, like, every time the blood just stops flowing, they find a way to open the gates again. And you can see here, Wikipedia kind of has a summary of everyone who's been losing their jobs, from hundreds to thousands, and it hasn't been pretty. And now Bungie is reducing their staff by 17%. Granted, the Final Shape launched to positive reception. I didn't play it because it's a bit expensive. I mean, Shadow of the Erdtree is like $40, but that's a 40-hour expansion. In this case, I didn't know whether I wanted to buy this or not. But yeah, this has actually been really positively received, especially after the trash fire that was Lightfall. A lot of people who bought that felt very disappointed, especially coming in after something as extraordinary as the Witch Queen DLC. And yeah, despite the fact that the Final Shape helped propel Destiny 2 to becoming one of the 5th most profitable games of this year, it still wasn't enough to give the company the boost it needed to prevent all of this. So we'll see here what their statement is. This comes from Pete Parson, who is the CEO of Bungie. This morning, I'm sharing with all of you the most difficult changes we've ever had to make as a studio. Due to the rising cost of development and industry shifts, as well as enduring economic conditions, it has become clear that we need to make substantial changes to our cost structure and focus development efforts entirely on Destiny and Marathon. Now, Bungie is owned by Sony, so I think that this also came from Sony, who's like, hey, cost-cutting measures are in place right now, because I'm kind of going to loosely draw a connection between Concord, because that's their next big game, their big live service. Sony also canceled a bunch of live service games because live services are becoming a huge flop and liability. Anytime you hear live service, people immediately shut down for obvious reasons because it's so generic stuff. But in the case of Concord, you can see how much effort and money they put into that game, from the character designs to the cinematics to the voice acting, and that game is dead on arrival. We could see that people didn't even want to play the open beta, and Sony probably saw the numbers and was like, hey, we gotta make some cuts here. Like, yeah, the Final Shape did very well, but you know, we're now together in all of this. That's the thing, when you work for a company like Sony and you're no longer independent, you're now tied to their fiscal responsibilities now. This means beginning 220 of our roles will be eliminated, dear God, representing about 17% of our studio's workforce. Damn, about a tenth, almost 2/5 of the studio, dude. These actions will affect every level of the company, including most of our executive and senior level roles. I doubt it's a lot of senior level roles. Senior, but not executive. Like, executives get golden parachutes no matter what. Today is the difficult and painful day, especially for our departing colleagues, all of which have made important and valuable contributions to Bungie. Our goal is to support them in the utmost care and respect, more PR speak. For everyone affected by the job reduction, we will be offering a generous exit package, including severance, bonus, and health coverage. At least they're giving something. We don't know how much, though. I realize that this is hard news, especially following the success we have seen with the final shape, but as we've navigated the broader economic realities over the last year, and after exhausting all of the mitigation options, it has become a necessary decision to refocus our studio and our business with more realistic goals and viable financials. We are committed to our two other major changes that we will be committed to other major changes today that we believe will support our focus, leverage Sony's strengths, and create new opportunities for Bungie talent. First, we are deepening our integration with Sony Interactive Entertainment, working to integrate 155-hour roles, roughly 12% into Sony Interactive Entertainment over the next few quarters. Sony Interactive Entertainment has worked tirelessly with us to identify roles for many of our people as possible, enabling us to save a great deal of talent that would otherwise have been affected by the reduction in force. Second, we are working with PlayStation Studios leadership to spin one of our incubation projects, an action game set in a brand new sci-fi universe, to form a new studio within PlayStation to continue its promise in development. So my confusion here is that, despite the reduction of staff at Bungie, you're still going to find places within Sony to reallocate these employees, which I guess is the best of a bad situation. But at the same time, doesn't that mean you're going to put more burden on the existing staff? Now these people have to work twice as hard to keep Destiny 2 going, because if you've ever worked a normal job, you know whenever they fire someone, they make sure that whoever's still left has to take on the added responsibilities of that person. So that's a little confusing. And the fact you're taking employees and now spinning off in an entirely different studio, why? Like 15 people, like, it's just like a little weird. Like, why are you doing this? Like, so you're reducing Bungie, but adding these people to different other projects while at the same time forming a brand new studio? Like, maybe I'm too dumb, but where's the sense in that? This will be a time of tremendous change for our studio. Let's unpack how we ended up in this position. It's important to understand how we got here. For over 5 years, it's been our goal to ship games in 3 enduring global franchises. To realize that ambition, we set up incubation projects, each seated with senior development leaders from our existing teams. We eventually realized that this model structure of our talent too thin too quickly. It also forced our studio support structures to scale to a larger level than we could realistically support, given our two primary projects in development, Destiny and Marathon. So you cancel the projects that you simply are stretched too thin for. Like, that would be the logical statement, unless Sony interfered and said, no, you gotta have this franchise set up so we can have another franchise we can milk to death. I don't know, like, I think the logical statement would be cut the franchise that is in early development that you simply cannot dedicate resources to. But maybe I'm just thinking of it as a practical standpoint. Maybe they just couldn't do that. Like I stated, they're owned by Sony, so their orders come from the higher up. Maybe they said, no, this has got to be done. Additionally, in 2023, our rapid expansion ran headlong into a broad economic slowdown, a sharp downturn in the games industry, our quality miss with Destiny 2 Lightfall, and the need to give both the Final Shape and Marathon the time needed to ensure both projects deliver at the quality our players expect and deserve. We were overly ambitious, our financial safety margins were subsequently exceeded, and we began running in the red. Then that's your fault. Like, you saw what people wanted with the Witch Queen, you decided to go in the opposite direction with Lightfall, it failed hard, and now the employees are suffering because of your mismanagement. This is your fault. Like, why don't you take a pay cut to keep as many of the people in their jobs as possible? Like, that's what Nintendo did. When the Wii U flopped, Satoru Iwata and a lot of Nintendo executives took a pay cut so they would keep the employees so they wouldn't have to suffer for management's mishandling. So, this is your fault. And you should take responsibility. After this new trajectory became clear, we knew we had to change our course and speed. We did everything we could to avoid today's outcome, even the exhaustive efforts undertaken our leadership and product teams to resolve our financial challenges. These steps were simply not enough. Now, I know I was going really hard on the executives because, yeah, this is their fault. But at the same time, if they truly, like, we don't know what the behind the doors meetings were like. Maybe he did try. You have no idea. Not every executive is pure evil. Sometimes you do have to make the hard decision that you have to terminate a lot of people. It reminds me of that scene of Mad Men when Don Draper had to call in each individual employee to tell them they're being let go. The unfortunate reality is that this happens, that you have to make hard decisions, and sometimes that means that people have to be fired. It also reminds me of Scrubs with Dr. Kelso, where there has to be a bad guy in a situation, and usually it is the people in charge, despite the fact they try their best to keep things running, and sometimes they just dive into the bad position. This is not to excuse anyone. Like, at this point, it's still their fault. As executives, as management, it is your responsibility to take care of your employees, and they failed dramatically on this. As a result, today we must say goodbye to incredible talent, colleagues, and friends. This will be a challenging time at Bungie, and we'll need our help to navigate these changes in the weeks and months. This will be a hard week. We know that our team will need time to process, to ask questions, and absorb this news. Today, over the next several weeks, we will host team meetings, town halls, team breakout sessions, and private individual sessions to ensure we are keeping communication open and transparent. Bungie will continue to make great games. We will still have over 850 members building Destiny and Marathon, and we'll continue to build amazing experiences that exceed our player expectations. There will be time to talk in our goals and projects, but today is not the day. Today our focus is supporting our people. And the reason I'm trying to keep a middle ground with this is because they didn't have to give these employees who were being terminated new positions. Like, they didn't have to try and do that. There are two ways I saw that. One, they don't want the dedicated resources until finding new people. So they simply took people from Bungie and said, hey, we're going to lay off these people. We might as well take them to other positions. Option B is just like, again, the mismanagement. Like, he admits to it, and it's just like, at this point, it's just a huge trash fire. Like, I just feel worse for the employees at this point because I'm always on the employees' side, but I try to keep an open mind with management because I've seen good managers in my time working real jobs of how they do try to keep people with their jobs. But unfortunately, when it comes to upper management, and Bungie is owned by Sony, sometimes you simply can't do anything. It's like 30 Rock when Liz Lemon was trying to keep everyone's jobs, and unfortunately top brass came in and started making budget cuts. They started firing people. They started making cutbacks on the stacks and stuff like that. So unfortunately, that is the reality of becoming management, despite the fact that the Final Shape has been doing quite well, one of the most profitable games of this year. But you can see here what the employees are saying here. So, coward, you did this, you chose this, I'm already listed as do not work with, I do not care anymore, you lied to my face straight to it, you invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off, 2 fucking days, leave now. So this is Pete Parsons, and I checked, he hasn't privated his Twitter. I think he did this earlier in the day because no way these people are lying, but I think Sony came out and just simply said, hey, don't do this, or maybe he realized this is a really stupid decision. Like, you can't private your Twitter if you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company like this, and especially after mass layoffs. Like, it's a really, really bad look, but the damage has already been done. If he already privated and then unprivated it, so yeah, not exactly the best decision to make. I guess he did this out of an emotional impulse, but not a good decision. So we'll look at this. As an ex-employee of Bungie who was laid off, calls on Bungie CEO Pete Parsons to step down. Also, he's a liar and a thief, and claims this isn't on Sony but Bungie leadership. Pete has also supposedly bought a whopping 24 vehicles from a single auction site since the acquisition closed in July 2022, totaling $2,409,550 in cost. Dear freaking Christ, man. Who needs that many cars? Presumably part funded by Liana refers to as the giant Sony payload. Pete privatized his Twitter earlier today, so these are the cars that he apparently bought. Which, why would you use your real name as part of your username? So, Chevrolet Corvette, 91,000. Bronco, 60,000. Deluxe, 33,000. Dude, that Porsche alone could have literally paid for like at least a lot of employees' entire yearly salary. Why do you need a 1971 Porsche? Like, one of my friends, Stefan, is a big into cars. Like, if he saw this, he would have been like, why? Like, the maintenance on these cars, man. Like, you have to keep, like, what the hell? $79,000. $5,000, $39,000 for a motorcycle. Like, dude, $5,000 for a hardtop. Oh my, like, if this is true, what the hell, man? Like, this just looks like this is like I'm starting like it's like I brought up, Satoru Iwata and a bunch of Nintendo executives literally took pay cuts just to keep everyone around at their company to ensure that it would not destroy employee morale. And then we see shit like this, man. Like, dude, you do not need all these cars. What do you need all this for? Like, maybe I'm in La La Land or something. It's just crazy. Where'd the money go, Pete? Where's the effing money? And I get there is going to be someone out there who's going to say he's an executive, he gets paid accordingly, and he can use his money for whatever he wants. Absolutely. 100%. If Sony gave this guy $1 million, he is free to buy as many classic cars as he wants. But at the same time, when your company is losing employees, when everyone is losing their jobs, maybe take a $500,000 payout instead and put the $500,000 to keeping the employees around. It's just like you can use your money whatever you. It's just like, dude, when you come out with this, it's just wow. Another another $20 trillion to Pete Parsons. Resign. Pete, heartbroken to the folks at Bungie. And yeah, so a lot of people, I do agree with this, because when it comes to executives, they get golden parachutes, they get full payouts. Look what happened with Body Codec and all that stuff. And it just becomes increasingly more devastating when you're these employees who are the ones actually making the games, the ones who put in their blood, sweat, and tears. And then you see your boss driving around in a $200,000 1971 Porsche, and you're like, we're sorry, we have to lay off half our, like 17% of our staff. But you know, I got this cool car. You want to touch it? Well, you can't touch it. You got to look at it. It's just like, I try to stay the middle of the ground when it comes to management, because it's a really thankless job, but at the same time, it doesn't help your case when you come out with this type of statement saying, we tried our best, I was hoping to save as many people as I can. And if this happens to be true, that this is indeed your profile, which it would be stupid if you use your actual, like, this, like, dude, you should have kept this confidential. But yeah, $34,000, $180,000 for a BMW, dude. Why? A BMW out of all the things. I may not know a lot about cars, but I know BMWs are shit, man. But oh my god. Tell me what you think about all this. I think it's absolutely devastating. I feel so bad for the employees, and I think this is just gonna get worse for a lot of people within the gaming industry. It's just like, at this point, if you work for Sony, you probably should be sending your resumes elsewhere, or Microsoft, because it just seems that every 3 months there's another wave of just layoffs. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Wow, this is really, really depressing. I love Bungie. I love Halo. Halo is in the trash fire. Bungie is doing shit like this. I don't know what else to believe in anymore, man. I guess the only real companies I can believe in right now are like, damn, I can't even think of one. Holy shit. God, this is really, really depressing. I mean, From Software. We can believe in From Software. Armored Core 6 is freaking amazing. I loved Armored Core 6. And Shadow of the Earth Tree, Elden Ring, Dark Souls. So, From Software is like one of the last companies I kind of still have hope for. Hopefully they never turn into this. Hopefully they never sell out. That would break my heart. But that's it from me. I've rambled on long enough. Like, dislike, your choice. Bye.